Hey YouTube, welcome back to another tutorial. Today we're going to be learning how to create shell scripts, the basics of shell scripts, and yeah. So before we get started, you should have a sufficient understanding of how to edit text files, open text files, and save text files. It's basically all you have to know for this tutorial, and you should be good because you'll learn the rest in this video. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so first we're going to go ahead and want to open a testing shell script file. You can name this file anything you want. The name will have no effect on the performance of the script. So I'm going to be using a text editor called Emacs. You can use Nano or whatever other text editor you want. I'm just using Emacs because I'm comfortable with it and it's powerful enough for my needs. Alright, so let's go ahead and open Emacs test.sh. And boom, we're opened. So the first line on every shell script you create, you're going to want to have this line here. Now what this line does is when we execute the file or the shell script, it basically tells Linux or your operating system, any Unix-based operating system, the interpreter we want to use to execute this file. Alright, and so basically this is the absolute path to the interpreter. And yeah, that's basically all you have to know there. And if you didn't understand anything I just said, just remember that for every shell script you create, you're going to want to have this line. Alright. Next up, we're going to want to learn about comments. Comments can help you understand your code if you come back to it at a later point in time, and help other people understand your code. It's basically, you know, something that nobody really wants to do, but in the long run, it's something that benefits everybody. So comments in Bash are relatively simple. They are just a pound sign. And as you can see, this is what a comment looks like. Test, 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 test. Alright. Now that we have comments down, let's go ahead and work with output in our shell script. Alright. Output. So the most common way that people output text or variables or what have you to the terminal in Bash is with the echo command. Just type echo, echo, and you could use double quotes here to specify that you want to echo a string. And basically the double quotes allow you to also embed variables in here too. And we'll talk about that later on, but that's extremely useful for debugging and interactive programming. Alright, so let's just go ahead and type echo hello world, and awesome. Now let's go ahead and run our shell script here. So if you're in Emacs, you don't have to exit. I can open a shell within Emacs, but for all you beginners out there, I'm just gonna go ahead and exit for simplicity's sake. Alright, I exited, and now we can go ahead and execute the shell script. Now first, before we execute the shell script, we have to make the file executable. Now this would be similar in Windows, say if you had a .exe ending, which stands for executable, but in Linux we have to set the execution bit, which you can do with chmod, stands for change modification, plus X for adding the execution bit, and then the file name, which is test.sh. Alright, click enter, and boom. The file is now executable. And another important note to make is that if you wanted to make the file unexecutable, you can do chmod or chmod minus X, test.sh, and now it's unexecutable. Let's go back up, make it executable, and we're ready. Now let's go ahead and let's go ahead and execute our shell script. We can tell Linux to execute our shell script by typing /, then the file name. Boom, and as you can see, click enter, it says hello world, which is exactly what we wanted it to do. Let's go ahead and open test.sh back up. I'm going to be typing Emacs test.sh, enter, and we're back in. Alright, so let's go ahead and keep the hello world output there, and let's explore one other way to print in Bash, literally. So we can use this built-in command called printf, and basically what this means is just print formatting. It's it's really taken from C API. There's a built-in a function called printf in C, and basically it has the same parameters and arguments to be used in Bash as in C. But if you, again, if you don't understand what I'm saying, just ignore me. Anyways, it's the same thing. It's just printf hello world. And also with printf, it doesn't add the trailing new line at the end. So basically, you have to add this \n yourself. I'll show you what it does if you don't add it though. So go ahead and delete that, save that, exit that, test.sh, and as you can see, hello world and this little bash prompt here are all in the same line. Now if you were to add this \n here though, it's a new line. As you can see, it's on a new line, literally. So \n, exactly like that, stands for new line or carriage return. Basically, it just put a line break here. So hello world and this bash prompt are on different entry levels. As you can see, it went from being on the same to being on separate. Alright, let's go ahead and open test.sh again, enter, and let's go ahead and leave that there. And let's move on to simple variable declaration. So simple variable declaration. Alright, oh, and if you notice, I put a space between the wording and the pound sign here. This is just this is common Bash commenting practice. If you plan to be coding with other Bash programmers, you're gonna want to follow the same syntactical sugar as everyone else, just so you don't upset any of your coworkers. All right. So how do you declare a variable in Bash? Well, it's very, very simple. You literally just put the variable name. So in our case, it's just going to be var1, we'll call it, equals, let's say, 2. All right. And as you notice, I did not put a space between the equal sign and the L value or the R value. The L value is the left-hand value. It's the var1 here. That's the variable. And the R value is the actual variable being stored, which is 2. Alright, and let's go ahead and create a variable 2 here, var2 equals 8, and a variable 3, var3 equals, this is a string. Alright, now let's go ahead and save the program and execute it one more time. And as you can see, no output changed here from the previous run. That's because we didn't output any of the new variables we have. We can output the value of these variables by doing the following. Echo var1, $var1, var2, $var2, var3, $var3. Now, as you notice, I have similar wording here. I say var1 colon $var1. Basically, this var1 here is going to be a string literal, which means its value is not going to change, while this $var1 here is the variable. I'm accessing the value of that variable. And the same thing goes with var2, var2, and var3. So let's go ahead and save again, run again, and as you can see, var1 equals 2, var2 equals 8, and var3 equals, this is a string. That's fantastic. So we just covered commenting in Bash, as you can see with the pound sign or the hashtag symbol, outputting in Bash using echo and printf, and declaring variables in Bash with var1, var2 equals the classic. And as you can see, we outputted variables in Bash using something called string interpolation. Alright, now let's move on to arithmetic operations in Bash. So basically, how do you do addition, multiplication, subtraction, and I forget which one I missed. Anyways, so let's go ahead and create a variable called x equals $, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, and here we actually do the real math, so it's going to be $var1 plus $var2. Alright, and the value of that's going to be stored to x, and the value should be 10. To go ahead and verify the correct value, let's go ahead and type echo x equals $x. Save, close the program, and let's go ahead and execute it. And as you can see, x is equal to 10. Let's go ahead and open again, and I'll explain this a little more detail this time. So basically what this does is x equals the dollar sign, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, close parenthesis. What that does is it's called a arithmetic expansion operator, and basically it allows us to do arithmetic operations in Bash. Now there is an older utility called EXPR. It stands for expression. You may be used to that, and yeah, I'm not going to get into it just because it's an old tool. But just keep in mind that you can use EXPR if you're not running the latest version of Bash that has these expansion operators. Alright, we'll go ahead and add a comment there. How to do math in the Bash. Now let's just go ahead and create a variable y here that simply squares the value of variable 1, and we could do echo x squared equals $y. Save, exit, execute, and as you can see, x squared is 4. That is correct. Excuse me, it's not x squared. Yeah, I was like, what? It's var1 squared equals 4. Alright, now that we know how to do math in Bash, it's time to learn about loops. So before we get started with loops, you should know that every loop is invented to do a specific job. Now what I mean for this is that a while loop is mostly used for when you don't know the number of iterations we're doing, while a for loop is when you know the number of iterations we're doing. So let's go ahead and get started with a for loop. So add a quick comment here, doing loops in Bash. Make sure that they're descriptive so people actually understand what the purpose of the code is. And yes, let's go ahead and get started with loops. So for is the keyword to get a for loop started, and then here is going to be that variable that runs on the range, the current range value. So for I in, use open bracket, close bracket to specify a range, and then in here we're going to put a range of numbers. Now what I mean by this is yeah, just look at the screen, you'll understand visually. So we can do 0.25. Basically, what this does is it's going to set I equal to 0, I equal to 1, I equal to 2, I equal to 3, and it's going to go all the way up to 25. And yeah, so we could finish off this loop by putting do here, and then space, and then done there. And then we can verify this loop works by doing a little debugging output. So we can say I equals $i. Let's go ahead and save and then run. And as you can see, I equals 0 all the way up to I equals 25. Sorry about that news notification. But anyways, as you can see, the loop works. Alright, next up on our loop list is going to be the while loops. And as I mentioned previously, you're going to want to use while loops when you don't know the number of iterations to be completed. And when you do know the number of iterations to be completed, use a for loop. That's how we know that there's going to be only 25 iterations here and not some unknown number. Alright, so to use a for loop, let's go ahead and declare a variable I equals 0. Oh, and oops, caps lock's on. And it's important to note here that this I equals 0 is going to be a different variable that has a different memory address than this local variable right here. Anyways, that's a topic for another video. Alright, so we got I equals 0 there, and let's go ahead and define a while loop with the while keyword. So while, and instead of open bracket, close bracket, we're going to use a square bracket here. So open square bracket, close square bracket. And now, as I said previously, I think I said at least, Bash is quirky with white spaces, that is at least. So we're going to want to put 2 spaces there, 3 spaces, and we're going to want to be in the middle, because you're not allowed to have any characters touching these square brackets in Bash, else else it won't work. That's because these square brackets are actually commands. It's weird, I know, but you'll get used to it in the future. Because the open bracket is a command by itself, and the close bracket is a command by itself, just like the while command is a command by itself. Anyways, let's go ahead and specify while I is less than 25, but instead of less than the sign, we're going to want to use the -LT. Again, that's because this open bracket here, or open square bracket I should say, is a command, and we're passing the less than parameter to it. Alright, let's go ahead and add the do keyword, and then the done keyword. And then we could verify this works with echo I equals $i. And also, it's important to note that while loops do not do the increment for the control variable like for loops do. This way, we have to specify the incrementation. So we're going to do I equals $i. Or actually, we should say that it wants to store the output. So we do $, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, $i plus 1. All right, let's go ahead and save and execute. And as you can see, I made a mistake. Let's go ahead and look where I made the mistake. And yeah, so let's go ahead and remove that $, real quick. And I messed up again. Oh, okay. I remember. So you're gonna want to use open bracket and close bracket again, and then $i plus 1. That's where. And that's not where. Which we can go ahead and specify by I equals $, open bracket, $i plus 1, close bracket. Now please make sure you have all this correct white space, just because if you don't, bash will not work, and that's because that these brackets are actually commands, and yeah, so bash is quirky, just keep that in mind. Alright, and one thing I just noticed is that we have to change this plain old I here to $i. That's because we want to access the value of I and not the character literal I. Alright, let's go ahead and save and execute. And as you can see, it worked this time, but as you notice, it only went up to the 24th iteration, not the 25th. That's because we said, hey, bash, run a while loop, 0 to 24. That's because we specified the -LT, or less than. If you want to make bash go all the way up to the 25th iteration, just specify, well, $i is not equal to 25. Go ahead and run that again. And, didn't work again. That's because we have the echo statement above the increment statement. If we were to move this there to there, and then run this one last time, you can see it went all the way up to the 25th iteration. Now I just want to take a moment and thank you for watching, and please leave a comment if you want to see a part 2 to this, or if you have a suggestion to me, and yeah, leave a thumbs up if you like the content. Thanks for watching.